I had everything I could have asked for. A beautiful wife, Amanda, a dream home in a peaceful neighborhood, and a future full of promise. 6 years of marriage filled with love and laughter. Then came that rainy Tuesday, when a truck slammed into my car, leaving me paralyzed from the waist down. The doctors called it permanent. Amanda stood by me at first, until Jackson moved next door. I noticed her lingering glances, her excuses to help him, the way she started coming home late. I was trapped in a wheelchair, watching my life crumble before my eyes. Let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. If my story resonates with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear how I turned this nightmare around. Amanda and I met during college. She was studying education while I pursued engineering. Her laughter could brighten the darkest room, and her determination to make a difference in children's lives made me fall for her instantly. After graduation, we both landed stable jobs. I worked at a technology firm designing safety systems while she became an elementary school teacher. We saved for years to buy our 2-story colonial house in a friendly suburb of Portland. Our weekends were spent hiking in nearby mountains, hosting dinner parties with friends, and planning our future family. That fateful day started like any other. I kissed Amanda goodbye as she left for school, promising to pick up ingredients for the special dinner I planned to cook that evening. It was our anniversary week. The rain had been relentless all morning, creating slick conditions on the highway. I remember checking my watch, thinking I had plenty of time to make it back home before Amanda. Then headlights flashed in my peripheral vision. A semi-truck had hydroplaned across the median. The impact was explosive metal crunching against metal. When I regained consciousness, I could not feel my legs. The hospital became my home for 3 months. Multiple surgeries tried to repair my shattered spine, but the prognosis remained grim. Dr. Whitman, a specialist with silver hair and compassionate eyes, delivered the verdict with a sympathetic hand on my shoulder. The spinal cord damage was too severe. I would likely never walk again. Amanda cried that night, clutching my hand, as I stared blankly at the ceiling, my world forever altered. Initially, Amanda was incredible. She rearranged our home to accommodate my wheelchair, took time off work to help with my transition, and researched every experimental treatment available. She learned to help with my physical therapy exercises and managed my medications. Her love seemed unshakable, as she promised we would face this challenge together. I believed her completely. 3 months after I returned home, Jackson Andrews moved into the house next door. Tall with an athletic build, he had a confidence that bordered on arrogance. From our first meeting, something about him rubbed me the wrong way. His handshake was too firm, his smile never reaching his eyes, as he looked down at me in my wheelchair. Through neighborhood gossip, we learned he had left his previous community under questionable circumstances involving a married woman and financial impropriety. Amanda initially shared my reservations about Jackson. She would roll her eyes at his transparent attempts to show off his expensive car, or the stories of his supposed business success. But things began to shift when he offered to help with yard work Amanda had been struggling to manage. She accepted reluctantly at first, then with increasing gratitude. Soon, Jackson was a regular presence, fixing our leaky faucet, trimming tree branches, and performing other tasks that had once been my responsibility. I started noticing subtle changes in Amanda. She began spending more time on her appearance before leaving the house. Our conversations grew shorter, her responses more distracted. She started coming home later from work, offering vague explanations about staff meetings or grocery shopping. When I asked about her day, her answers became increasingly brief and irritable. One evening, while Amanda was showering, her phone lit up with a message. I had never been the type to invade her privacy, but something compelled me to look. A text from Jackson read, "Had a great time today. Same time tomorrow." My stomach nodded, but I convinced myself it was innocent. Perhaps they had just had lunch or coffee. When I casually mentioned Jackson later that night, Amanda tensed visibly before changing the subject. The most heartbreaking moment came when I accidentally overheard Amanda on the phone in our backyard. She thought I was napping, her voice carrying through the open window. "I cannot keep doing this," she said quietly to someone. "I feel trapped." This is not the life I signed up for. The words cut deeper than any physical pain I had experienced. I realized then that my worst fears might be coming true. Despite the growing distance between us, I refused to give up on our marriage. I doubled down on my physical therapy, pushing myself to build upper body strength. I found online work as a consultant, contributing to our finances again. I ordered flowers for Amanda planned movie nights and tried to engage her in conversations about her passions like we used to. But my efforts seemed to fall flat, her appreciation seeming forced and fleeting. My closest friend David had been concerned about Amanda's behavior for weeks. When he visited from Seattle, he noticed how she barely acknowledged me, checking her phone constantly. "Something is not right, Jeff," he said when Amanda left to run errands. "You deserve better than this." His words validated the suspicions I had been trying to suppress. One afternoon while Amanda was teaching, I made the difficult decision to check her email. My hands shook as I typed her password, guilt warring with my need to know the truth. What I found confirmed my fears. Numerous exchanges with Jackson, some innocent on the surface but others with unmistakable undertones. Plans to meet when I would be at therapy. Comments about their connection. Nothing explicit enough to be undeniable, but the pattern was clear. David offered to help me investigate further. On a day Amanda claimed to be attending a teacher conference, David drove by Jackson's house. Her car was parked in his driveway. He took photos and showed them to me that evening, his expression a mixture of anger and sympathy. "I am so sorry, man," he said, placing a supportive hand on my shoulder as I stared at the undeniable evidence. When Amanda returned home that evening, I confronted her calmly. "Where were you today?" I asked. She maintained she had been at the conference downtown. When I showed her the photos, her face cycled through shock, anger, and finally defiance. "We are just friends," she insisted. "You are being paranoid. Do you expect me to have no life outside of being your caretaker?" Her words stung, framing me as controlling rather than heartbroken. The argument escalated with Amanda storming out of the house. She returned hours later, refusing to discuss the matter further. In the following weeks, she spent less and less time at home. When present, she was emotionally distant, creating a chasm between us that seemed impossible to bridge. I spiraled into depression, feeling betrayed by the person who had vowed to stand by me in sickness and in health. My suspicions deepened when I checked our joint bank account. Several large withdrawals had been made, money transferred to an account I knew nothing about. When questioned, Amanda claimed she was setting aside funds for a specialized wheelchair and home modifications. The explanation seemed plausible, but doubt had taken root too deeply for me to accept her words at face value. David continued his unofficial surveillance, reporting that Amanda and Jackson were frequently seen together at restaurants and shopping malls. Their body language, he said, was unmistakably intimate, yet without concrete proof of physical infidelity. I remained in painful limbo, unable to move forward, but unwilling to give up on the woman I still loved. My parents, who lived across the country, sensed something was wrong during our weekly video calls. They offered to come stay with us, but I declined, not wanting to admit how badly my marriage was deteriorating. Instead, I sought help from a therapist who specialized in helping people with disabilities navigate relationship challenges. Dr. Reynolds helped me understand that my worth was not diminished by my paralysis, though Amanda's actions suggested she thought otherwise. The emotional toll affected my physical health. I lost weight, struggled with insomnia, and often missed therapy appointments. The pain of betrayal eclipsed the physical pain of my condition. Yet somewhere inside, a spark of determination remained. If Amanda had given up on me, I would not give up on myself. The breaking point came on a rainy Saturday, ironically similar to the day of my accident. David had set up a small camera in my living room, with my permission, hoping to capture any interaction between Amanda and Jackson that might occur while I was supposedly at a doctor appointment. Instead, I was at David's house watching the live stream with a mixture of dread and desperate hope that my suspicions would prove unfounded. Amanda arrived home shortly after I left. 30 minutes later, Jackson knocked on our door. The camera captured everything: Their embrace was immediate and passionate. The whispered endearments and promises to be together properly, once everything was finalized, left no room for denial. I watched numbly as they disappeared into our bedroom, the bedroom I shared with my wife. David drove me home immediately. We arrived to find Amanda and Jackson still there, both shocked at my unexpected return. "How could you?" was all I managed to say, my voice barely audible. Jackson had the decency to look ashamed as he quickly left. Amanda stood defiant, arms crossed. "You were never supposed to find out this way," she said coldly. "I was going to tell you once I figured things out." "Figure what out?" "How to leave your paralyzed husband. How to take our money." The words burned coming out. "You have no idea what it has been like for me," she countered, her voice rising. "I did not sign up to be a caretaker for the rest of my life. I am too young to give up on having a normal relationship, children, a partner who can actually be a partner." Her cruelty stunned me into silence. The woman standing before me was unrecognizable from the one who had promised to love me forever. When she spoke again, her voice was calmer, calculated. "I want a divorce, Jeffrey. I have already spoken to a lawyer. We will need to sell the house. I am entitled to half of everything." She began gathering some clothes, stuffing them into a duffel bag. "I will be staying with Jackson until this is sorted out." As she walked toward the door, I found my voice again. 6 years. 6 years of marriage, and you throw it away the moment things get difficult. She paused, hand on the doorknob. "It has been difficult for a long time. Jackson just helped me see I deserve more." With that, she left the door, closing firmly behind her. The silence that followed was deafening. David stood nearby, unsure what to say. When the tears finally came, they were relentless. All the fear, anger, and betrayal I had been suppressing broke free. David stayed with me that night, sleeping on the couch after helping me into bed, concerned I might do something desperate. The next few days passed in a fog of despair. I barely ate or slept. My phone filled with text messages from Amanda, not apologies but logistical questions about when she could collect more of her things and how we should proceed with the divorce. Each message twisted the knife deeper. David contacted my parents, who immediately booked flights to Portland. They arrived 3 days after Amanda left, bringing with them unconditional support and practical help. My mother took over cooking and cleaning, while my father researched divorce attorneys who specialized in cases involving disability. Through neighborhood connections, I learned that Amanda and Jackson's relationship had been developing for months. What hurt most was discovering that several neighbors had suspected something but said nothing, perhaps out of pity or discomfort. I felt humiliated on top of betrayed. The final blow came when Amanda formally filed for divorce, her petition making no mention of her infidelity. Instead, it cited irreconcilable differences and requested an equitable division of all assets, including the house we had saved for together, the retirement accounts we had built, and even my disability benefits. On my father's recommendation, I contacted Sarah Lawson, an attorney known for her expertise in complex divorce cases. When we met at her downtown office, her sharp intelligence and genuine empathy gave me the first glimmer of hope I had felt in weeks. "You have been dealt an incredibly unfair hand," she said after reviewing my situation, "but we are going to fight for what is right." Sarah immediately began investigating Amanda's financial activities, discovering numerous instances where she had moved money from our joint accounts into a private one. She also found evidence that Amanda had been planning her exit strategy for months, consulting with her own attorney while I was still in the dark about her intentions. During this difficult time, an unexpected call came from Dr. Whitman, the specialist who had treated me after my accident. "There is a new experimental procedure," he explained, his voice cautiously optimistic. "A nerve regeneration technique, combined with targeted electrical stimulation. It has shown promising results in patients with similar injuries to yours. The procedure was risky with no guarantees. Insurance would cover only a portion, and the recovery would be grueling. But for the first time since my accident, there was a medical professional suggesting my paralysis might not be permanent. I decided to take the chance, partially funded by a loan from my parents. The surgery lasted 12 hours. When I woke, nothing felt different. Dr. Whitman cautioned patients, explaining that nerve regeneration was a slow process measured in millimeters. For weeks, I noticed no change. The physical therapy was more intensive than anything I had experienced, before leaving me exhausted and often discouraged. Then 6 weeks after surgery had happened, while concentrating intensely during a therapy session, my big toe moved slightly. The movement was barely perceptible, but my physical therapist Rachel saw it and confirmed I was not imagining things. We both cried, the small victory representing so much more than a simple toe movement. Progress was painfully slow. From that single toe movement, it took another month before I could move my foot. Each small victory was celebrated by my support network, which now included other patients undergoing similar recoveries. Rachel became not just my therapist, but a true friend, spending extra time working with me and researching additional exercises I could do independently. I kept my improvements secret from Amanda and anyone who might tell her. Sarah advised documenting my progress, but revealing nothing until strategically beneficial. Meanwhile, Amanda was getting impatient with the divorce proceedings, pressuring for a quick settlement that would give her the freedom and financial security she wanted. Through Sarah's investigation, we uncovered that Jackson had significant financial problems. His business was failing, and he had substantial debt. It became increasingly clear that Amanda's relationship with him was not just emotional but potentially calculated. She may have seen him as a way out of our marriage, while he saw her as access to our assets. 5 months after surgery, I could stand with support. By month 7, I could take a few steps with a walker. My parents had returned to their home, but David remained a constant presence, driving me to therapy and doctor appointments, celebrating each milestone. Rachel's belief in my potential pushed me beyond what I thought possible. Our professional relationship evolving into something deeper, though neither of us acknowledged it yet. The day before our scheduled court date, I practiced walking with just a cane for hours. The pain was excruciating, but determination drove me forward. Sarah had prepared our case, meticulously gathering evidence of Amanda's infidelity, financial misconduct, and the timing of her abandonment coinciding with my disability. Everything was in place for what would be the most important performance of my life. The courtroom felt smaller than I had imagined. I arrived early, waiting in a side room with Sarah, David, and Rachel. Amanda and Jackson entered with her attorney, looking confident. They had not seen me in nearly 8 months. As far as they knew, I was still completely dependent on my wheelchair. When my case was called, Sarah wheeled me to our table. Amanda avoided eye contact, whispering occasionally to Jackson. The judge, an older woman with keen eyes, reviewed the case documents before addressing the court. As she began discussing the division of assets, Sarah gave me the signal we had arranged. I gripped the arms of my wheelchair, took a deep breath, and slowly pushed myself to a standing position. With careful, deliberate movements, I reached for my cane and took one step toward the judge's bench. The courtroom fell silent. Amanda's gasp was audible, her face a mixture of shock and disbelief. Jackson shifted uncomfortably beside her. "Your Honor," I said, my voice steady. "Despite the effort of standing, I would like to address the court directly." The judge nodded, her expression revealing nothing. I explained my journey, the surgery, the months of excruciating rehabilitation. I described Amanda's abandonment, when I was at my most vulnerable, her affair with our neighbor, and her systematic movement of our shared assets. "I am not seeking revenge," I concluded. "I am seeking fairness. I have fought to rebuild my life, while my wife discarded our vows and planned to take half of everything we built together after giving me nothing but betrayal during my darkest hours." The judge listened intently before turning to Amanda, whose composure had cracked. Her attorney attempted damage control, but the visual impact of seeing me stand and the evidence Sarah presented painted a compelling picture. When the judge delivered her ruling, it was more favorable than we had dared hope. Amanda would receive only 20% of our assets, with no claim to the house or my disability benefits. The retirement accounts would remain separate property. Most importantly, she ordered Amanda to repay the money she had secretly transferred. Amanda's face fell as the implications sank in. Jackson, who had been so supportive while believing there would be a financial windfall, suddenly seemed less enthusiastic. They left the courtroom, quickly avoiding eye contact with everyone. Outside, exhausted but triumphant, I accepted congratulations from Sarah, David, and Rachel. For the first time in over a year, I felt a weight lift from my chest. The road to recovery, both physically and emotionally, was still long, but I had crossed a significant threshold. In the months that followed, my walking improved steadily. I sold our house too, filled with painful memories, and bought a single-story home better suited to my ongoing recovery. Rachel and I began dating officially, our relationship built on mutual respect and understanding. Her patience and belief in me had been instrumental in my healing process. Through a former colleague, I secured a position as a remote engineering consultant, allowing me to work flexible hours around my continuing therapy. The job utilized my technical skills, while accommodating the limitations I still had. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I ran into Amanda at a grocery store. She was alone, looking tired and drawn. Jackson, I learned, had left her shortly after the court ruling, moving on to another town and another relationship. She attempted small talk, her eyes repeatedly going to my cane and my now more steady gait. "I made a terrible mistake, Jeffrey," she finally said. I was scared and selfish. I felt no satisfaction in her regret, only a strange sense of peace. "We all make choices, Amanda. I hope you find what you are looking for." As I walked away, I realized I truly meant it. The anger and bitterness had gradually dissolved during my recovery. What remained was a profound appreciation for the people who had stood by me and lessons about resilience I would never have learned otherwise. Today, I walk with only occasional support from a cane. Rachel and I are building a life together based on honesty and commitment. I volunteer at a spinal cord injury support group, sharing my story with others facing similar challenges. The darkness that once consumed me has been replaced by purpose and gratitude. Life rarely follows the path we expect. Sometimes it takes us through valleys so deep we cannot imagine ever climbing out. But I learned that our greatest challenges can reveal strengths we never knew we possessed, and that true loyalty becomes evident only when tested. Most importantly, I discovered that second chances are possible, even when all hope seems lost. Have you ever experienced betrayal from someone you trusted completely? How did you find the strength to rebuild? Please share your stories in the comments below. If this journey of resilience resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories of overcoming adversity. Remember to share this video with someone who might need to hear that even in our darkest moments, hope and healing are possible. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes our greatest comebacks are born from our most painful setbacks.